Battlefield 6's collapse needs to be studied. All right, guys, welcome to the channel. Okay, the video's not about that. I just thought this was funny. Obviously, the open beta is closed, so you cannot play the game, so the player base is going to drop. What we're going to do in this video is discuss why Battlefield 6 is not the perfect game, but it doesn't even need to be the perfect game. And in fact, that's the essence of Battlefield. But why this game has been so successful and why it's absolutely killing it. So we're going to look at a whole host of reasons here. We've got some stuff from the developers as well. Things about anti-cheat, the map selection for the beta, and a lot of interesting bits and pieces. But yeah, let's get stuck into this because this game has been really, really, really strong. So I do think the first thing we should probably discuss is the Battlefield moments. Now, you know what this is. Everyone knows what this is. It's those crazy moments that happen in Battlefield games. It's been part of the marketing for the game, well, for the series or the franchise for a long time. Everyone remembers the guy that jumped out of the jet and blasted the other jet with his rocket launch and then jumped back in his jet. Reznok, I think it's called. I'd say everyone remembers, and I can't remember the name. Whatever. That move, you know, is a Battlefield moment. It was actually part of one of the official trailers for 2042. I believe, or it was in that trailer, whatever. But Battlefield is known for this. This game is generating a shit ton of this kind of content, and I mean loads of it. And it is by design, right? The developers intentionally gave us the very sort of close-range maps in this beta because they wanted massive action meat grinders where more of this crazy stuff tends to happen. Don't get me wrong, you do get crazy stuff happening with jets and helicopters on bigger maps, and I'm sure we'll see that in the beta coming up. But yeah, it was very specifically designed for this. And obviously, I am a content creator, so, you know, I do look around and I look at content and I think, okay, yeah, there's a lot of content being made. And I sort of look at it from two perspectives. I think, wow, this is really awesome content to consume. And then I think, wow, there's loads of this content. So if I was Battlefield and using that kind of, like, I guess, perspective, I'd be like, this is going really well for us because we're making so much organic content here. Everything is being recorded in this day and age. You know, I remember back in the day, if you did something crazy, you go and talk to your friends about it at school. Maybe you're at college or at uni, whatever. You're like, I cannot believe what happened last night. This was insane. And you're describing what happened, whether that was on Battlefield 2, because I'm actually ancient, maybe Battlefield Bad Company 2 and stuff like that, even 1942, although I wasn't at any college when I was playing 1942. What the hell? But this game is like the modern era. You record it, right? You upload it to Reels, you upload it to Shorts, TikTok, whatever. There's loads of this stuff. Tanks driving through buildings, just absolutely insane moments. So it's insanely good marketing, so good job there. But it's driving hype, right? And the game, this is what the game does. It does create those moments, and it's awesome to be able to see them and see how insane it is for other gamers. I've got to throw this meme into the video because it's just legendary. Look at this, right? This is Liberation Peak, the sniper scope glint. You look at any mountain on this map and it's full of snipers. Obviously, this is a meme and it's got loads and loads. Like, there's a few in the sky there, which would be literally impossible. But you do generally see quite a few of these, right? So if you look at any mountain, as I say, you probably see 3 or 4. Yeah, welcome to Liberation Peak. Okay, let's talk about anti-cheat, because there's been a lot of very viral clips of cheating content in Battlefield 6. There's been clips which are absolutely obvious, where the cheater is literally showing you the cheat, and you've got the cheat overlay and everything. And there's been some clips that may be a little bit ambiguous, and there's been clips which are very much not ambiguous, and are very much of hackers claiming they're not hacking. Anyway, there's a few things going on here, right? So, firstly, it's free to play. The open beta, anyone can download it. As soon as the game becomes you have to buy the game, don't get me wrong, this could impact the player numbers as well, but as soon as you need to buy the game, it's going to be a lot more difficult for hackers to hack, because if there is like a $60, $70 cost to enter the game, you're not going to keep doing that, getting banned over and over again if the anti-cheat is robust enough. And we do have some statistics here from the open beta. So this is from Javelin, which is the code name, well, not the code name, the product name for the anti-cheat, which of course, remember, requires secure boot to be turned on, and is styling itself on Valorant's anti-cheat, which is pretty much considered one of the best in the industry at the moment. So this is what they say. Since open beta early access's launch, Javelin has prevented 330,000 attempts to cheat or tamper with anti-cheat controls. You've reported 44,000 instances of potential cheaters during day one, and another 60,000 so far today. We're already using these with our own gameplay integrity team to add and improve our detections for Battlefield 6. They're also working with the Battlefield Positive Play team to actively remove these reports we confirm to be cheaters, or those reports. Anti-cheat isn't one and done. It's an ever-evolving Battlefield, and one that has worked for us previously or in different games doesn't always work in all of them. I hope this helps, and please keep the reports coming in. We'll continue cleaning up the cheaters so you can have a fair game. We're looking forward to the open beta tomorrow, and if you need to, the best without comment cheats, blah, 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 blah. So obviously this was taken from the 2 days of early access. So you can imagine when the open beta kicked off, and anyone could literally download the client without getting early access. These figures are probably like doubled, tripled, quadrupled, maybe. There was also some issues with possibly a conflict between Javelin and Vanguard's anti-cheat, but that isn't actually true. This is Philip, well, you can see to the right-hand side there, the head of anti-cheat at Riot Games, and says this: Vanguard is compatible with Javelin. You don't need to uninstall one anti-cheat to use the other. However, Battlefield 6 does not currently allow the Valorant client to be running simultaneously because both drivers race to protect regions of game memory with the same technique. So there you go. You just can't have both games open at the same time. I don't know why you would have both games open at the same time, but maybe there were some cases where people had Valorant minimized, they forgot about it, and they opened up or tried to open up Battlefield 6 and it wouldn't let them. In fact, it would say uninstall Valorant, which is quite funny. Okay, I want to talk about the maps, then I want to talk about the matchmaking, and then I want to talk about time to death, and then I want to go into the problems the game's got and some of the, I guess, fixes they can make. But I've got to say this, right? There's a lot of clickbait going around like, oh, the Battlefield's got major problems and all this. It doesn't. It's got little niggly issues, which I hope they can sort. And because the devs are so vocal on social media, I'm hoping that they will fix a lot of these problems. And because I think most of it, they're not really major problems. They're kind of minor things that can be fixed and tuned quite easily. All right, so let's get stuck into this. So this is from David Serland, and he says, clarification, open beta used all matchmaking priorities we expect for launch, and the same as they have been in previous titles. We prioritize ping and time to game ahead of most things. Skill is a factor, but it's far down the list, and all of our large modes need a spread of skill to work well. The sandbox needs many different types of skill to function well, and that's also why the matchmaker team balances to make teams even as part of that process. So this is quite interesting because Battlefield isn't your standard game that would benefit from very strong skill-based matchmaking. In fact, that would make the game quite crap. Actually, the more I think about this, can you imagine how bad Battlefield would be if every single player on the team was like within a certain skill-based matchmaking tier or ranking? It actually would be terrible because no one would be doing anything insane. Everyone would be trying to like min-max all of their stuff. It wouldn't be chaotic. It wouldn't be crazy. It would take the Battlefield out of Battlefield. So I do think like when we look at FPS games and we look at Battlefield specifically, it probably does benefit the most from not having any of that crap. We don't need engagement-based matchmaking either. We just need the game to be full of a couple of good players, a couple of decent players, and then maybe trash players that we can farm to make us feel like badasses. I'm pretty sure that's what they're going for. But no, seriously, yeah, it would be a nightmare. There was a viral tweet going around where people were claiming that, oh yeah, Battlefield 6 uses skill-based matchmaking and all this, and it doesn't. Because obviously we know the Call of Duty audience absolutely hate that as well. But yeah, it's kind of funny to me because when you look at games like Counter-Strike, obviously you need that. Valorant obviously needs it as well. They're both tac shooters. Even games like Overwatch, right? And Rivals to some extent, although the matchmaking in that game is leaves quite a lot to be desired. But especially in a game like Overwatch, right? You can't have like a high-ranked player in a game with low-ranked players in a ranked game because it would just be terrible. So yeah, I think Battlefield, it's fine, and this is great. It's good clarification. So let's talk about the maps, right? Because it's been a bit of an interesting talking point. Because I've enjoyed these maps. It's been annoying that there hasn't been any massive maps to play on. But honestly, I've just really enjoyed getting used to the weapons, running around, just running and gunning. It really enjoyed the small scale maps. Kind of the Cairo map kind of reminds me of Grand Bazaar as well. I really enjoyed that map back in the day. So yeah, I mean it's fine. But this is what has been said by David Sullen. So. This user, Zyron, over on Twitter, says maps are way too small. UI and screen clutter is too much. Keep it simple like BF3, BF4. Ticket counter should be right above the minimap. Actually, I agree with that. I do agree with that. I don't think the ticket counter in the middle of the screen at the top it just takes up the screen. It's like whatever. My personal complaint is it feels too fast and full damage needs to be increased. Seeing the cracked out COD movement is not what we want at all. I'm going to say it is. I really like the movement in this game. I think it's a good evolution of the Battlefield format. I think it's fine. Actually, I think it's fine. Anyway, and remember though, I was like the Battlefield Bad Company 2, that was my favorite game, and that was more about I guess, infantry combat, if we can say that, rather than like massive combined arms. It still had combined arms combat, but not maybe on the scale of like a BF3 or BF4. But anyway, David goes on to say this: speed is a factor of map size. We picked these maps to make sure we hit the full octane version of Battlefield on the head and made everyone see we can handle that too. Large maps exist and the tempo scales accordingly. You'll be able to see soon enough. So I think that's a very clear admission. They were saying we wanted to show the Call of Duty players that Battlefield is not a boomer, you know, modern military shooter that's really slow paced. It can be ultra high fast paced, and you will still benefit from having cracked aim, from having cracked movement. And I think it was a very deliberate move, and I honestly think it's a really good move. I still firmly believe they've managed to intersect the sort of Battlefield philosophy with a more modern kind of Call of Duty-ish light, Call of Duty light, can I call it that approach? And I think it does work really well. This also leads into things like open and closed weapons for the classes, which I think open is better. But the die-hard Battlefield fans most certainly think closed is better. But actually, the more you play with it, you start realising actually open, it gives you more freedom and it gives you more choice. And I think that's better. Still having gadgets restrict the classes, yeah, but primary weapons having and secondary weapons being selectable across all the classes, I think is a good change. Okay, let's talk time to death. Again, because we've got another dev. So this is Florian, principal game designer on, well, at EA DICE on Battlefield. And he says this: if some of you have some videos, examples of suspected super bullet, unexpectedly fast time to death that you've recorded in the Battlefield 6 open beta, send it my way. So what this means is there's a difference between time to kill and time to death. So time to kill is the amount of time it takes you to kill somebody when you're shooting them. Time to death is how fast that death occurs to the player being attacked. Now, the way this should work is it should be equal. So if your time to death or time to kill was 1 second, the time to death should be 1 second from you're getting hit with bullets, a second later you die. What's been happening, though, in Battlefield 6 is sometimes you'll just die. And you're like, what the hell? I didn't even get a chance to fire at that guy. What happened? It's because the server has got some sort of latency issue. Maybe it's to do with the tick rate. I don't know. It's probably something to do with the way the clients are interacting with the server and the way the server's updating and feeding it back. I'm sure a lot of this is being worked on, and the open beta was probably specifically designed to gather this information because obviously it puts the servers under big load and you've got people connecting from all over the world with different pings and all of that. But they need to fix this because it does happen quite a bit. Now, what I will say with Battlefield is it's almost by design that the game, even though this happens and it can be frustrating, it's very quickly forgot about and you're instantly back into the game. So they can kind of not be as fastidious when it comes to fixing this problem as maybe other games. Like using Valorant as an example is kind of poor because Valorant is not it's not even the same game, right? It's a attack shooter. But using a attack shooter as an example, if this had this sort of problem, it would be absolutely terrible because you spend a lot of time dead when you die. In Battlefield, you're not dead for very long. You're coming straight back into the fight. You almost forget about it. And probably it's happening for you as happening against you just as often. So yeah, this is an issue. It's one of the bigger problems, one of the bigger technical problems the game's dealing with. But they are going to fix this, or at least look at fixing it or reducing it, which is good news. All right then, so people talk about these big problems, big issues, and all this crap with Battlefield 6. So I think there are some ways the game can be improved. I'm not going to go into too much detail here on things like little sort of granular details on the way the helicopter should function, for example, right? You've seen some helicopter footage in this video. Yeah, we were just using it as a gun turret because you could literally fly up in the air, drop down, and you could evade most of the anti-air fire coming your way. Again, this is a problem because the engineers have all got stingers. Every single engineer has got anti-air, so there's a lot of anti-air, and also Liberation Peak isn't exactly the biggest map, so yeah, it can be a bit frustrating. But yeah, we're not going to talk about all that stuff. That can be fixed in time. I think all the basic stuff, the way the weapons function, the way the movement functions, all of that is fine. But there are some issues, I think, with other stuff. So I think we really need platoons in the game. This would be cool if this was added to the game. I think we need a bit more of that social layer because Battlefield was all about forming a community. We know we're going to get Portal, and we know Portal is going to allow us to make maps and make our own modes and stuff, and it's going to be almost like a fully fledged editor, which looks really cool. But I wonder if they're going to let us have our own servers. I think people would pay to rent servers off them, and they used to do this back in the day. You guys remember like BF3 and that, where you had what was the browser thing called Battlelog, which even at the time though when Battlelog came out, a lot of people didn't really like that. You know, they like the older way of everyone manually searching for servers and stuff like that. But yeah, I think platoons would help. That would be really cool. I think the tactical movement system in the game, I think, is fine. I think it works quite well. I don't even really think this is a problem, but people seem to see it as an issue. I think that's just because Battlefield, it's never really been this game about really fast infantry movement. It's been a bit more slow-paced, and I can understand why that puts some people off. But I do think for the health of the game and going forward for the future of the game, it does need that. So I actually think that's a positive, and I do think the way they've implemented it is really good. Like I said, the Portal having a map editor is going to be really good for the game because it gives longevity. I also really like the fact that they brought back the class system. You've just got the 4 roles. Like, whatever they did in 2042 with the specialist was just... that ain't Battlefield, right? That is going in the wrong direction. Battlefield needs to retain its core identity and then build upon that. Yeah, take other systems from other games, which clearly this movement system has been taken from COD, or elements of it have. That's fine, right? That works. But going down the path of everyone's their own type of character, that's got their own type of abilities and kit, whatever. It's not a hero shooter, Battlefield, right? You're a soldier, you pick a role, and you go into the fight, and you die. That's what happens. You probably kill a few people on the way, but you die. And I'm really happy that they've got the core roles back in the game. You know, you can talk again about some of the roles going like, well, assault's maybe got answers to everything. Support having both like ammo replenishment and health replenishment, and also the res, maybe that's a bit too much. You know, you can go on and on about that, but hopefully they can work those things out. But I do think this return to the core role system was integral, and it's probably one of the reasons as well that the older players like me are really flocking back to this game, going, holy shit, this just feels like a Battlefield game, but it feels modern and faster. Destruction as well is something that does really need to be spoken about. There is destruction in this game. In the previous video I made, I said it's the baseline destruction you'd expect from a Battlefield game. And it is. I wish there was more destruction. I really wish you could level the map. I think that would be sick if you could do that. I get that it's probably for like gameplay reasons. They don't want things to be able to just be removed, because just blowing cover away will become a strategy. You know, but I'll take you back to Battlefield Bad Company 2. We used to do this there. We used to collapse buildings, because you'd literally put the C4 in the building to collapse the top floor onto everyone in the ground floor and kill everyone in the building. And you got, I think it was a special kill as well. It was like a collapse kill. That's what we did. That would be cool to be able to do it in this game. But, you know, the technology can definitely handle it, because they did this years ago, but they don't want to do it for whatever reason. And it's fine. You know, Battlefield, yeah, the destruction's okay. I just wish it was more. So, yeah, look, Battlefield 6 does have flaws, but they're not major game-breaking issues, right? This isn't a game which is dead on arrival. It isn't a game like 2042, where you would look at it and go, what is this? This is like, you can sort of see what they're trying to do. But Battlefield ain't no hero shooter. What is this, right? Forget the specialist. What's going on? It doesn't have any major issues like that. It feels like a Battlefield game. It feels like a modern Battlefield 3. But you can start getting granular. You can start looking at stuff. You can say things like, okay, do you know the way the progression system works with the weapons? Where you just unlock weapons as your career rank goes up. So your rank increases when you're just, you know, completing maps, you're winning maps, you know, killing players, whatever you're doing, right? You're getting points. It's adding to your XP bar. Your XP bar goes up. Oh, look, we've unlocked a new assault rifle. Your XP bar goes up. Oh, look, we've unlocked a new SMG or whatever. That's a bit weird, because in the past it used to be based on, well, just the type of weapon you're using. So if I'm using assault rifles, I'm expecting to unlock more assault rifles. I'm not using sniper rifles, so why are you giving me a sniper rifle game? There's little things like that, right? But again, that's just being like over the top. These are little things that can be fixed. The biggest issue the game has had, and I think it has solved this in a lot of ways, is creating an insanely hectic FPS game, modern military shooter, with a very fancy, flashy graphics engine that feels good to play, that creates all these moments. Because remember, guys, at the end of the day, these are games, right? You want to feel like, wow, this is sick. I've really enjoyed my time playing it. And I think they've got that. And I think they hopefully will have the content as well to keep this game pumped with new life when it needs it. New maps, new weapons, all of that stuff. Because I think the biggest issue here, because you can talk about numbers all you like, Call of Duty beats Battlefield 6 when it comes to any kind of metric. However, for the first time ever, Battlefield has had more concurrent players on Steam, or a higher peak, than COD has ever managed. Now, I know COD's available on Battle.net. It's more popular on consoles than Battlefield is and all of this stuff. And yeah, you can say Battlefield 6 is available on the EA app as well. But that, to me, is a very strong signal that they have the chance here to create this foundation, this Battlefield platform, that is probably going to push forward, and then they can keep adding new stuff onto it. Because I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Battlefield's biggest issue for me has always been it just feels like every game is completely disconnected. You're not playing a Battlefield game from one year to the next. It could be completely different. You could go from, you know, a Battlefield game like, well, I remember when Hardline came out. That was so confusing to me. I was like, what? And I'll be honest, right? This is probably bad of me to say. I didn't even give that game a go. I literally didn't care. I think I was invited. No, I'll end the video at this because it's actually a bit of Stylosa lore. I was invited to the Battlefield Hardline reveal ceremony on top of a skyscraper in downtown LA. But I didn't go because there was a little game called Overwatch that was, well, had given me beta access, I believe, at the time. So I was playing that. But I will say this, I didn't even play Hardline because I've got no interest in that. I wanted a Battlefield game. So Battlefield, yeah, they've took risks in the past. They've made crazy changes. I suppose Battlefield 1 as well is a good example of this. No one expected them to go back into World War 1, and they did, and it was successful. But it was nowhere near as successful as the Call of Duty was that year, which was Infinite Warfare, which was probably slammed as the worst modern COD in history. Now, we've got a completely different... Like, I feel like we've got a reset. For the first time in a long time, I feel very... happy for Battlefield. I feel pumped for Battlefield. I feel like I'm getting those experiences I got 10 years ago now when I played Battlefield 3. Well, it's a bit longer than that, isn't it? 2011. So yeah, man, like, oh, that's a long time. I'm getting old. Oh no. All right. This video is way too long. I'm going to end it. Thank you guys. Battlefield 6 does have problems. Let me know in the comments below what issues you've had, what problems that need to be fixed, and yeah, if you're going to pick up the game. But remember, don't pre-order. All right, guys, catch you on the next one.